Hello, my name is Shirley Self, and I'm here to talk astrology. Tonight I wanted to continue in my talk about the phases of the moon, the journey of the soul, according to William Butler Yeats. So tonight I'm at moon phase 5, whose title is Loss of Innocence. Now the first three active phases, this is a static phase. These people are just being and trying to develop some desire to become. So here's where they become, and the energy is tamed and organized and focused, and is now, if you'll remember the mythology, Cinderella or White Lily, whatever you want to call the lunar mind, has got the light from the witch. She's spent moon phase 4 studying in the house of the witch, and has taken her light home, freed herself from her wicked stepmother, and buried the light in earth, and turned out, joined Will, the solar mind, which is already focused out there. They're both focused out into the world, into conquest of the world. So what they have developed here in this is a power. They've focused, they've tamed it, they've developed this power that is then given to moon phase 5, and 5 will experiment with it, 6 will analyze it, and 7 will bring it to perfection. And this is the way every quarter does. These are always static phases, the very beginning phases of each quarter. But the activity is here and here, and here is the crossover, and they're all difficult phases. Moon phase 5 is the beginning here of the rectangle of power. And this is the height of the power of the will. The phases in the rectangle of power are 5, which is loss of innocence. 11 over here, who is a rebel. 19 up here, who is the assertive will. And 25 over here, who is the crusader, a la Gandhi, etc. And over here is where it all begins. Over here where is the will is a warrior, and this is the height of the power of the will. This is where will learns to be a warrior. The inclinations of the will, were instinctive here. It just did what desire told him to do. But now those inclinations of the will are in the mind. Notice we've moved into Gemini here from Taurus and the Capricorn Dwad of Taurus into Gemini, sorry, not Dwad, Decadent. I recommend you pay attention to the Dwads. They are interesting and nuance that's really helps understand the degree of whatever you got, wherever you got it. Anyway, notice all the Gemini we've got in this rectangle of power. The creative genius up here is Aquarius, the Gemini decadent. The body of fate over here is Sagittarius, decadent of Leo. The mask up here is, where are we? Oh, Sagittarius, decadent of Sagittarius. So this is a communicator, and rhetoric is one of his powers, the power to explain things that are complicated in a way that people can understand them. Okay, this is called the focused intellect. And energy here is so intense that if there is no focus, it's dangerous. So what we've got is both minds have turned out and are developing a social intellect. Okay, remember that 4, what had sort of found a tribe, had left the maternal matrix, left home, but found a tribe, a gang, a bunch of knights, all learning to become knights. Over here, there is a separation from the constraints of the tribe. 4 didn't want to stand out from the tribe, didn't want to say, oh, this is wrong, dudes, let's not do this, because just wanted to fit in, just wanted to be liked. Had a lot of trouble with conflict. 5 does not have that trouble. 5 is separating from anybody else's, all fixed attitudes and habits. This is a separation. Notice it's a crossover from convention. Here we've got Taurus, conventional values into personal values, into personal, who am I and how do I express that? So what 5 needs to find in order to use this desire and need for conflict, to use this conflict creatively, he needs to be challenged by some local crisis, something in the environment that brings out the warrior and sets him marching. And Martin Luther King was a 5. Emmeline Pankhurst, the feminist who in the 20s changed herself to the gates of Parliament and lobbed a bomb into Parliament and spent a lot of time in jail. But there were 5s. They had a local issue and they went to war. They were warriors. They saw the roots of the dilemma and they attacked. And as to quote William Blake, the way to wisdom leads through excess, and that is the motto of Moon Phase 5. Excuse me while I take a sip of water. Okay. Now, so, and he will be fighting at the forefront. He'll start the fight. And he may not finish the fight. Martin Luther King didn't finish the fight. Moon Phase 5. His great talent is, like I said, rhetoric. Yeats said rhetoric, another definition for rhetoric, is the desire to convince wins out over the desire to reveal. Anyway, what Moon Phase 5 has got is no need for approval. He must accept opposition, he must accept persecution because he's at the front of things. There's going to be a strong possibility of failure. Martin Luther King, nor as Moses, did not see the promised land. We still haven't seen the promised land. But the struggle that 5 engages in brings out the first self-analysis, the first starting to look at, if you'll notice where the relationship of the moon would be to the sun here, this is where you start to see that, beginning to see a curve to the moon. You're beginning to see, and that that indicates that's your capacity to reflect upon yourself, or the need to reflect upon yourself. So, Moon Phase 5, as you would expect it being in all that Gemini, educates himself, analyzes himself, and adjusts to necessity. Okay, wise use of power is the issue here. Whatever they do, Moon Phase 5 is an active force in society for good or for ill. Out of phase, He is unfaithful to any position, just wants to win, needs to win. He's afraid of failure. Afraid of failure. This cannot afflict a successful 5. That fear of failure, because he's built and intended to fight against the implacable forces of society. So if he can't muster the energy to go forward like that, he'll be insecure, insincere, and impotent. His spiritual arrogance. Now, 5 does have a certain amount of spiritual arrogance. The whole, and it's just a sort of a recognition of the truth, but it does feel like it sets them apart. Anyway, Moon Phase 5 can really succumb to pride if he's not busy, if he's not focused. And he'll take up, because he has to be active, he'll take up some cause that has no personal impact upon him. And he'll intimidate and dominate others and wound others, because in order to do that, he has to separate from the emotions. And he's moved into the intellect. And easy to do, easy to do. So in phase, he appreciates the world. He wants to do something for the world. He's sympathetic. He wants to be of service. And let me tell you some Moon Phase 5s here. Margaret Mead. These are people who are pioneers. Vlad Dracula. Bill Cosby. J. Edgar Hoover. The Dalai Lama, Indira Gandhi, Maria Montessori. I already mentioned Emmeline Pankhurst, who is a heroine of mine. Okay, let's look at the Kabbalah. This is the Golden Dawn Kabbalah. Don't fall over, baby. Okay. This is the snake upon the tree. So this is an interesting card. This is from the Waite deck, and this is the Devil, and this is a card that belongs right here between Mercury and the Sun, and is the cards of Moon Phase 5 and the Will in Moon Phase 5 and in 19. I know, it's scary. It's scary. But there's a mystery to reality that this card's all about. And you have to penetrate this mystery before you can understand any higher principle of yourself. So here we've got the transition between consciousness and true spiritual consciousness. And the Devil is a symbol of raw power. Raw power. It's also Capricorn. Yeah, Capricorn. And it's a sign of initiation. And it's a sign of an initiation into, not only into power, but into control of that power. That is muy importante. And but basically what this card is referring to, notice the pentagram is pointing downward. And the whole point of this moon phase, this rung on the ladder, is to break free of conventional attitudes. The conventional, there's a limited understanding. This is, average understanding, and that's that. It is focused totally on the material. And the whole point of this moon phase, these two moon phases of 5 and 19, and this card, is get your head out of earth and point it in the right direction. And that means break free of that limited understanding, or you're never going to know. You're never going to know true power or true spiritual consciousness. Not as long as you're following in the average. And that's also the curse of the 12th house. 12th house in you, in your horoscope, it tends to mean that there's something in conventional stupidity that is personally wounding to you. 12th house. So, so that's the devil. The other card, the card that is called the creative genius and the body of fate, is the lovers. And you can say that is the lovers. I get it a lot for people who are lovers. But what it means is, notice he, the solar mind, sorry I'm shaking, is looking at her. The lunar mind, who is looking at whatever that is up there, God, call it that. And that's the truth of the matter, is that the logical mind needs to learn to pay attention to the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is virtually the mirror of God. And that's where you find out, that's where you find God. That's where you learn to communicate with anything, and that's where you learn to understand anything beyond the normal, average devil. Okay, let's look at a moon phase 5. This is, I don't think you can see, no, okay, I'll give it to you. This is Bob Geldof. The information, he was born 5 October 1951 at 2:20 p.m. Dublin, Ireland. Sir Bob Geldof. He was, it started out, I think, kind of poor in Dublin, and became the front man for a new wave band, and ended up making a fundraiser for famine relief in Africa. He was also nominated for a Nobel and knighted by the Queen. So his mask, you know, the mask is your ascendant, and the descendant. The will is at the ascendant. The mask is the descendant, and his creative genius is the South Node in Venus. That's mathematically where it puts it. His creative genius. His body of fate is down there, and that is 77. Well, first, they're opposite each other, creative genius and body of fate. And the body of fate's what he's got to work with. And the creative genius is pretty much what he wants to do with it. The mask is a means by which he does it. So, it's sort of an attitude. It's an emotional attitude. It's probably the best way to put it. So his ascendant, okay, he's got his ascendant, his will, is ruled by Jupiter, which is ruled by Mars, which is ruled by Mercury, which is ruled by Venus. This Venus is really important. He's got a moon in conjunct Antares. Notice the moon is over there in the 12th house. Antares is it's pretty cool. It's got its dangers, boy, they all do. It's one of the royal stars. It's eloquence, and we've got rhetoric as one of the real talents of Moon Phase 5. So, and it's also interested Antares, the royal star, at what is that degree? 9 Sag. It's interested in human rights and religious and racial tolerance. And all of that had to do with Bob Geldof's, he just one day did it. That Jupiter down there gave him a good idea, and off he went. Anyway, that's a Moon Phase 5. They are really powerful people. They are not appreciated for the work they do. They're like Martin Luther King was assassinated. Bobby Kennedy. I think Bobby Kennedy was a moon phase 5, and he too was assassinated. Patton's one of my favorite moon phase 5. I don't know. He had probably something in his horoscope that appeals to me. I often find that. So that's a moon phase 5. They're very powerful people, and the women especially have a hard time, and because let's face it, the world appreciates a powerful man a hell of a lot easier than it appreciates a powerful woman. And I really, all right. God bless us, and Goddess bless us. Bless us all. See you next time. Bye-bye.